guys, welcome back to the channel. As you guys saw from the intro there, we are going to be working on our Allison 1000 transmission from our girl Leah, which, by the way, she be looking fly as shit. Oh, we got Pudge hanging out. But we have all of the, well, not all of it, but we have the majority of our stuff from Merchant Automotive. Their link is in the description down below. Real quick, I'm not paid to say any of this. I'm not sponsored. But Eric and the crew, they're probably about 45 minutes from me, so it only makes sense, right? So, quick rundown. We have our adapter housing gaskets. We have 2 of those. We only need 1 for this install. We have our OE bolts and straps for the rear drive shaft. We have our Merchant brace here, and then we have 2 filters, spin-on filters. We have 2 internal filters, and we have 2 magnets here as well, so that way we're going to resurface the transmission. I know Lola is missing a magnet, and I think Ironhide is too, so that's why we have those. We have our output housing here. This did not come from the guys over at Merchant. This was actually a Facebook Marketplace find. So got that whole unit for $100. Can't beat that. And then, courtesy of good buddy Bogema, we have the fleece, all lights on, right there. Get you that part number. And then, so now basically all that it is that we're gonna, that's better. We're gonna go ahead and get the transmission torn down. What I'm gonna end up doing is flipping the transmission upright. I'm not going to do a full install video on this. I will show you how the Merchant brace works, but again, not going to do a full video on there. Eric and those guys have a YouTube channel, and they cover all of that in great detail. So, let's jump into it. Well, not only did we make a colossal mess, but did you guys notice the pop when this thing came loose? Now I see why they want you to stand it up. But as far as the innards and everything here goes, I didn't see any shrapnel or anything like that. So we're just going to service this trans completely and then toss it back in the truck. So the springs in there did make it pop up, so I got to make sure that when I go to set this down, you know, just make sure that I'm bringing it down evenly. And we're just going to swap this gasket out here real quick and toss it back together. Famous last words, but hey, we're making progress nonetheless. So yeah, it's going to be sweet. Be happy to have my truck back. And also, Bogema, this next scene, technically, it won't be broken no more, so I'm going to bust your chops a lot. So I'm going to need you to be ready for that, big guy. Apologies for the jump forward. My camera died, and when I realized that it died, to be just absolutely, completely honest with you, I just wanted to get this part of the project done. I can go over some details if you. Well, actually, let's just go over some quick details on getting the tail housing adapter on after you break it. So what I ended up doing initially, and I did it wrong, and I'm good with admitting that. When I took it off, I just took the bolts that hold the housing here on the tail end off first, and then I lifted this out. Well, there's a jam nut right here on the back, so you're going to need the, where'd I put that socket? You're going to need the socket to remove that. There's also a massive snap ring in here that holds the bearing in place. Don't worry about that. But once you pop this off, this whole housing will slide off. And then with the transmission standing up, you can slide the output drum into place. And then you can put the housing over top of it. The bolts, these 15mm bolts right here that go on the tail housing of the trans, these are torqued at 45 foot-pounds. And then your output nut, this little guy here, is done at 42. There are a few videos that I have seen. Like I said, Merchant has a good video on this, and also Truckmaster, who is also local here to me, Mark from Kodiak Truck, does a really good job breaking down how to tear one of these transmissions apart and how to put it back together. Great detail. I mean, the guy is second to none. So just something to keep in mind here. Like I said, once I got into it, I just wanted to start moving forward. The other thing to notice here is that there's no support for the transfer case when it sits in the truck. At best, you have where the tail housing there sits on a transmission mount, which, I mean, yeah, that helps, but if we see how weakly designed and how poorly designed that output housing is, you know, that's where this brace right here from the guys over at Merchant, that's where this thing comes in absolute clutch. And it locks in just like that, and it keeps everything from twisting back and forth and up and down. Don't get me wrong, I've seen many people that have this brace on there, they've still destroyed the transfer case, not so much the output housing. But it's like I've done videos in the past, like when I was doing lift pumps and all that stuff. Any part that you put on your vehicle, in your vehicle in general, you have to maintain it. The number one cause of these failures here is something in the drive line. It's a U-joint, a drive shaft that's out of balance, the bolts and straps that hold the backside of the drive shaft on. I am struggling to fucking talk, but those notoriously come loose. So when stuff like that happens and this stuff breaks, you know, people are quick to, oh, that thing's a piece of shit, it doesn't do nothing, blah, 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 blah. No, it's because you're ignorant and you didn't pay attention to what it is that you're supposed to be doing. So these are only put together like this, not so that way I can install it in the truck. They're going to have to come apart. But I'm going to brake clean everything, get all the juiciness off of them, and I'm going to go ahead and paint everything and get it looking nice. So I got to get the Harley out of here. And we're going to actually switch our attentions, because I'm not going to bore you with painting freaking driveline parts, but we are going to do a quick little update on this big mule. So I'll catch up with you guys outside. Back outside, whatever. Let's talk about this big mule. Now, you know, from a distance ain't bad, but as soon as you start rolling up on it, it ain't good. Now, the hood isn't latched. We got a healthy gap to the front here. We were able to get this side of the cross member to, or the radiator core support to slide backwards. So it's actually bolted in the hole that it's supposed to be in. Whereas this side isn't on the fender. Let me go get something to set you guys up on. Or to set this hood up on. Keep going, Pudge! Good job, kiddo. Oh, those kids are mine. Oh, that dog of mine. All right, let's get a better look. So on the OBS trucks, this right here is generally the fender that, or the hole that gets used to tie the fender in. So you can really see the gap here, which is fine. We might have to get a little bit creative on how we get this to sit. Now this is probably a solid inch and a quarter or so off. So we could probably massage that, because I mean the bumper doesn't sit too far Bubba Gump. Well, I guess it does a little bit. It's not like I can't take those mounts and slide them back just a little bit. It wouldn't be the end of the world. But if you look at the body lines, especially this fender, because again, the front part of the OBS radiator core support, it's not square on the front of the truck. I just kind of set it on there and I was like, it's good enough, and tightened it. But the body line there is not the greatest, which is fine, because if we sight down the body of the truck, you can see the cab dives forward. So if the cab is diving forward and it's throwing the line off there, which means it drops down the nose in the front, so if we bring the cab up just a little bit, we won't have to drop the front nearly as much either. So we got that going for us. This right here is exactly why, this is 100% why I haven't been in any rush to start any fabrication, making permanent body mounts, anything like that. None of it whatsoever. This side sits just a little bit better with the core support sitting the way that it is. See, it's not as jacked, and what's nice too is right now neither one of the doors rubs the fender. And you know, everything still closes nice, which is what we're after. So a little bit of tweaking going on. That's what we're going to start messing with as soon as we get this big beautiful thing back inside. And frankly, I'm ready to get him back inside. I'm ready to get some more work done. We did end up dropping the VGT back into place. I didn't get as much done on this as I wanted to, but that's fine. She goes back in, and we are getting Leah finished up. So that's kind of just a real quick update on Ironhide. Much better. Much better. It looks a little splotchy in the light, because it is splotchy in the light because the just started laying down the clear coat, but much gooder. Got it all cleaned up. I mean, you guys can see all the shit on the floor here that I took off of it, all the dust, the corrosion and the chipping and all that. You know, I mean, you know, we didn't rebuild the trans, we didn't do anything like that with it. You know, we're gonna clean up the cross member and that on it too. But really the whole point of doing something like this, getting it cleaned up, is so that way when I go to handle it again, which I'm going to, I have to handle it again to put it back in the truck. When we go to handle it again, I don't have to worry about shit getting in my eyes. I don't have to worry about shit falling into, you know, the exposed dipstick hole. I don't have to worry about none of that. You know, the hardware's good and cleaned up. All the threads and everything are chased like they should be. It'll basically be like working on a new truck. You know, it's clean, hasn't been through any shit, so makes my life a lot easier. And frankly, isn't that the whole point of, you know, these DIY projects and doing shit ourselves? Isn't it to make our lives easier? Isn't it to save us some money? Now, yeah, you know, it costs a few bucks and some paint and some clear coat. It's just a rattle can job. But I did all this same stuff to Sally, and that truck is easy to work on as far as the drivetrain and yanking all that stuff out, because it's clean. I've already been through it. It's been degreased. It's been wiped down. It got painted, or it got primered. It got painted. It got all of that. And that's another thing too. This is the primer I didn't use was the greatest, but you know, whatever. It's going to be under the truck. You're not going to see it. The important part is it's clean. So the next time I have to get underneath the truck, it's going to be clean. But that about wraps it up. That's basically where we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Like I said, I got to finish laying down the clear on that thing, get that ready to go back in, and then back in the truck that it goes. Unfortunately, we did find that our lower oil pan is leaking. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop that. I'll show you guys that in a later video. But you can drop that in the truck. The cross member does come out, but that's for another video. So looking at it now, it's kind of... But that's it. We got plenty more content coming for you guys. We actually got to get back into this thing here. We got to take it for a drive. We got to do some data logging on it. And we have our next poll coming up here very, very shortly. So anyway, that's what I got for you guys. You know, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And yeah, take care. God bless. Be good to one another. We'll see you on the next video, guys. Until then, stay classy.